Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. Folks, we made it. We are at the end of 2020, and I know that we are all ready to see this year in the rearview mirror. It's just, and the past, 10 days or so has just been insane, and of just all the different things that have happened. We've had, so many people pass away right here at the end of the year, the holidays and different things happening and so on and so forth. Number one, Kevin Green passed away. The great football player, members of the Panthers, 49ers, etc. Wrestling connection with the WCW matches, and Kevin Green was my man. I remember Christmas 1996. I got a Kevin Green Panthers jersey, and it was one of my favorite presents from that year, and just unbelievable out of nowhere. And then you find out Danny Hodge passed away. Now, Danny Hodge, just a great junior heavyweight, a legend in NCAA collegiate wrestling, and in Oklahoma, just the strength they say that man had. Just fantastic, but elderly, had been suffering from Alzheimer's for a few years. Sad, but not unexpected. But the next ones I'm going to talk about are just gut punches to me. So it was a gut punch kind of a day. Brody Lee, just a fantastic guy. From everything that you hear about it, just nobody was saying a bad word or a bad thing about him. Just so sad. Everything that happened to him with so much promise. The last 2 months, just in the greatest battle, and unfortunately succumbed to these unknown, as I'm recording this, just lung issues, non-COVID related. But you just feel for his wife and his son and all of his family and his fans and his friends. Just a great guy. And in a business that sometimes you have to deal with less than great guys, it did my heart glad, even though it was, like I said, a sucker punch, to know that there are still good guys around and in wrestling. And then just a personal note, I found this out the same day. Like I said, it was just a day of gut punches for me. I talked in the second ever episode of this show about a legendary story from where I'm from. My best friend's brother-in-law once got up and attacked the Barbarian during a match that the Barbarian had against Rob Van Dam. And thus, his brother-in-law was thrown out. I did not witness this. It was a famous, fantastic story. I did not witness this, but I had to work that night. I worked in a grocery store, and it was like in this kind of a strip mall type of area, but very small, only like 5 or 6 stores. At the end of this strip mall was a Subway that helped sponsor the card, and that we knew all the wrestlers were going to at the end of the night. I said to a guy I was working with, hey, let's go. We'll order sandwiches and we'll linger over our sandwiches and we'll just talk and enjoy ourselves. And if we're still here eating our sandwiches, we haven't bothered anybody, they'll probably let us stay when the wrestlers come. And we were there talking and stuff when we hear about what had occurred at the wrestling matches. And I found out this week, again, just that horrific day, that the guy I was sitting with, Daniel Neal, passed away in April. And I'm thinking, even though we were in the middle of the lockdown at the time and things were crazy and all of this craziness that 2020 has thrown at us, it's like we're the wall and 2020 just keeps throwing things at us to see what will stick. And more things are sticking than are supposed to. It was just a gut punch. Somebody you don't expect to be gone. Somebody you expect to run into when you're out and about running errands back home. Hey man, good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, how are things going? Reminisce. Talk about some of those crazy times that we had. Not there. And it just hit me. All of these people no longer there. Man, 2020 sucks. How was your week? Did you have a good week? We had a really good week here, all things considered. My wife and I stayed here. We did our Christmas Eve breakfast out, and then came back here. We FaceTimed with her family, built gingerbread houses, did our gift exchange over FaceTime, different things, and watched some Christmas specials and went to bed, and then woke up and my wife made a great breakfast for us, and we did our gift exchange and then went over to her best friend's house for dinner that night, exchanged some gifts there. Really low-key, really low-key Christmas. And after the 2020 that we've had, I think that's what we all needed. Because I tell you, after Christmas, before New Year's has just not been the greatest. And isn't that just the great way to cap off 2020? One thing you can say is that when the ball drops on New Year's Eve and gets to the bottom, it will be a new year. And you can either turn to a loved one or think to yourself, hey, we survived 2020. Welcome 2021. It's good to see you. We hope that you have at least something a little better in store for us than 2020 did. Although I was saying to my wife, I can't complain. I launched the podcast and slowly growing. Don't have the downloads yet, but they're getting there. And I have some great things in store for the new year. But we end the year looking at the January 1986 Saturday Night's Main Event from the WWF. This was Saturday Night's Main Event number 4, and it aired on January the 4th, 1986 on NBC. It was taped December the 19th, 1985, and the show came from the USF Sundome in Tampa, Florida. Hulk Hogan starts out making a protein shake. He tells Mean Gene it's his patented Python protein drink as he prepares to take on Terry Funk. Mean Gene takes a sip and starts to Hulk out. The hillbillies are on inner tubes in the water, and Roddy Piper's checking them out via binoculars. He and Jesse Ventura are on the beach surrounded by beautiful women. The body is getting a rub down by one of them. They, along with Cowboy Bob Orton, face the hillbillies tonight. This leads us to our introduction. Vince McMahon welcomes us and runs down the show. Jesse then comes on to plug his match. Not only does he announce, he backs it up in the ring. He brings Bobby Heenan on to announce in his place. Mean Gene is with Roddy Piper and Orton. Roddy belittles the hillbillies. They are then joined by Jesse. The 6-man tag is going to start us off, and Vince goes over the history of the animosity, Piper's and Jesse's actions at Uncle Elmer's wedding. Gene talks to the hillbillies, and then they make their way to the ring. Jesse and Uncle Elmer start. Jesse tries to psych Uncle Elmer out, then rakes the eyes and gets him in the corner. Forearms, but Elmer counters. Forearms and Jesse sells. Then Elmer gets Jesse up and throws him down, then runs his head into Hillbilly Jim. Hillbilly Jim then tagged in. He gets a side headlock on, and sends Jesse to the corner, but Jesse counters and tags Piper in. Cousin Luke also gets tagged in. Piper offers a handshake. Cousin Luke shakes, then kicks him. Piper and Orton then double team him. Orton takes over, then tags Piper back in. Piper is a heat machine here. They go back and forth. Uncle Elmer and Piper are finally in at the same time. Then everyone is in. Piper and company take a powder regroup. We come back from commercial and Hillbilly Jim has Piper in a hold, and Piper slaps him to no avail. Then a double and triple team to Hillbilly Jim. Piper gets Cousin Luke in a sleeper hold. Pandemonium, and Orton hits Cousin Luke with the cast. 3-arm drops and Piper's team wins. Jesse then returns to announcing. We then go to a video package of Mean Gene at the water slide competition between the Junkyard Dog and Jimmy Hart. JYD embarrassed Hart at the last Saturday night's main event, so Hart says that this is the fairest way to compete against the JYD. JYD jumps from the gate and wins easily. Jesse Ventura's at the bottom and he calls shenanigans. He's poolside with Terry Funk. Funk says he's working on his tan since he's going to win the title tonight and be on the cover of Sports Illustrated like Hulk Hogan. Gorilla Monsoon then narrates a video of Hulk being branded by Funk in Denver. Hulk is with Mean Gene. To counter Jimmy Hart, JYD is going to be in Hulk's corner. Hulk Hogan versus Terry Funk. JYD manhandles Hart and puts him in a chair to start. Terry Funk is bumping like crazy for Hogan. Jesse says that Funk likes to refer to himself as middle-aged and crazy. He's 41 here for the record. Funk throws a chair into the ring. Hulk sits in it, then they get rid of the chair. Back and forth till Jimmy Hart interferes and Hulk and JYD go after him. They chase him and he goes under the ring. Back in the ring, Funk takes off his wrist tape and starts to choke Hulk. Funk then hits a very sloppy piledriver. It only gets a 2 count. Hulk then hulks up. He pins Terry Funk after a clothesline. And then, as always, Hogan must pose. Mean Gene then does an interview with George Steele and Captain Lou Albano in the pool. Jesse interviews Macho Man and Elizabeth poolside, and Randy Savage pushes Liz into the pool under the guise that is how you teach someone to swim. We go to our next match, George Steele versus Randy Savage. Their angle begins. Back and forth, but Steele is distracted by Liz. Finally, George Steele gets distracted again and Savage gets a double axe handle from the top rope for the pin. Mean Gene and Hulk Hogan then intro the 1985 year in review video. Mean Gene is then with Freddie Blassie and Nikolai Volkoff discussing the upcoming peace match with Corporal Kirshner. This is supposedly a scientific match. Jesse is then shown outside with Corporal Kirshner, and Kirshner talks, then zip lines into the pool. The peace match is next between Corporal Kirshner and Nikolai Volkoff. Your referee is a very young Dean Malenko. Volkoff wins the match with a brutal knee to the throat. We finish off the night with a tag match, Don Morocco and Mr. Fuji versus Ricky Steamboat and JYD. The finish comes as JYD headbutts Fuji for the pin. Jesse and Vince then close out the show. Hey folks, if you like the show, please leave a review in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform of choice. There are a number of ways that you can contact me. Follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am at the Joey Harris. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey Harris saying so long from Stately, Maine Manor. Have a happy new year, everyone.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.